Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loot. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace, aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King, aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ, life for the moment in need. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's love to me. My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with.
Well, guys, we are here, a couple of monkeys bouncing around on this planet here, enjoying the hell out of ourselves. We've had some absolutely gorgeous weather here in Western Washington here the last week, and I have just been absolutely loving the life. And you know, it's nothing I can complain about. Went and had a really good day with my daughter yesterday, out on the Puget Sound, and it was just a blissful day. So I am in very high spirits right now, and looking out at the rest of the world, knowing that man, have we got an interesting and exciting experience that we are going through, and loving every bit of it. At least I am. I know. I think all of us are on some level, whether we realize it or not. And as more and more of us actually wake up and realize what's really going on here, the fun just is getting grander and grander, and the amazement that I have just continues to grow and grow and grow. And man, gotta love it, right, Ramon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing people say things that, you know, that I didn't expect for them to say. Like an ex-girlfriend of mine's from junior high school, she wrote on her Facebook, I'm going to paraphrase, so I might not say it correctly, but she was saying something about if you're not experiencing personal growth, it's because you haven't gotten out of your comfort zone. And, you know, there's so many people, including myself, that we fall into this comfort zone and you don't realize it, because you're comfortable, so you don't really realize it. And, you know, that hit me as so much truth. Like, you know, you always gotta, that doesn't mean go out and make trouble for yourself, but try something new. You know, there's something you always wanted to do. I mean, every single one of us, even if we're doing a lot, there's something you still want to do. So
yeah. You know, it's the fear of the unknown is something that stops a lot of people. We're going to have to ask our guests about that tonight too. Why people do fear the unknown. And
I think he lost that.
Yeah, I think so.
Years ago.
So let's get right into it, Ramon.
Yeah.
We have returning tonight somebody that just absolutely I so loved having him on the show here a few months back, and we decided we needed to get him back on here because his energy and his insights and the experience that he's having here right now are absolutely amazing, and we absolutely love him. So, Dannion Brinkley, I want to thank you for joining us again at the 100th Monkey Radio, and wow, you're out and about enjoying the life too, aren't you?
Well, I would have to say so. I mean, like we were talking before you aired, this is a rare gift. we're at the epicenter of a 25,920-year cycle. 26,000 years is what you normally hear, but it's 25,920 years. And we're in the last couple of years of a cycle. And being in that, you start to look for, like Ramon was talking about your comfort zone. Well, Ramon, I can guarantee you, everybody's comfort zone is going to dramatically change in the next 2 years. When you start to realize that this whole story of the December 21st, 2012 is even more than it's cracked up to be. It's not the end of something, it's the beginning of something. And that we chose to be here at this particular time and point as guardians. Why you guys do this radio show? As guardians of a certain consciousness that people can turn to as this evolution begins. And people say, well, I don't believe that. I heard the Mayans said it was going to be the end of time and the world was going to end. Well, that's a bunch of white people talking. What's going to happen? Well, I hate to say it, but if you want to mess something up, bring a bunch of white people there and leave them there for about a year. And you begin to understand it. But what they're saying about the Mayans, the Spanish came, okay, and then the Catholics got in, the Spanish priests got into interpreting what they saw, and then some Frenchman wrote a book, and then another guy from Mexico decided to write another book and created this whole phenomena because the calendar ends. But the Mayans count backwards. We go into the future. They go into cycles. And it's not the long count, the 365-day count, that was of any interest. It was what the Spanish called the agrarian calendar, the 240-day, 13-month calendar, which they thought was their agrarian calendar, but it was that the Mayans measured consciousness and cycles. So when you start to hear that and you look at it, well, what gives me a sign to show that? Well, it's proven that this planet, this solar system, has moved from the outer reaches of the galaxy or the Milky Way all the way through 1 billion planets and stars to hit the galactic center. Okay? And then it'll start backwards. It'll start going back to the outer realm, but it'll take 26,000 years. But then what does that tell us? Number one, when we first started disavowing this kind of stuff, we didn't have nuclear science. And now with nuclear science and CERN, the collider with the Higgs boson particle being discovered, we now know what neutrinos and tachyons are. And we can measure the amount of tachyon neutrino activity from the galactic center more clearly and measure it. Why do you think we're having so much rain everywhere?
Right.
Because neutrinos are creating new clouds. And the more neutrino storage that's in the clouds, the more moisture they hold. And you can measure that. But here's the one that I like the best. For everybody who says there's nothing happening, and it's global warming, and people are passing gas, and that's what's causing the problem. Our magnetic north, which is usually 12 degrees northeast from true north. It has moved 40 miles in the last 2 years. It's moved 40 miles, and now it's skipping. It's moving back and forth. So what does that mean? It means if you have an airplane that has an automatic pilot in it, you have to calibrate it like every day. Because when you move from true magnetic north, and it's moved 40 miles, every one runway in the world is having to be remapped and repainted. And then it's skipping and moving back. So you got to paint and remap every runway again. And that's creating the electromagnetic flux of what's the Schumann resonance. That's affecting all of us. So this ex-girlfriend, I don't know what you did to her, Ramon, to make her an ex-girlfriend. And I hope that whatever happened that got the two of you out of your comfort zone, I hope it was probably good for her. I don't know if it was good for you, but I know it was probably good for her.
We dated back in junior high school, so I don't.
Well, if you're like me, you don't even remember back then. But the point of it is we're setting up for the biggest run that we could possibly have. I mean, it's exciting to be here and to be alive and to look at these things like we were talking about earlier about other animals and forms of life that we now have a deeper appreciation of and a better understanding of. And like you, when you were swimming with the dolphins, and what you discover about these creatures.
Dannion, speaking of that, I've actually been noticing that even with my pets, my dogs and cat, and we were talking about the dolphins earlier, it seems as if their level of consciousness, if you want to, quantify it in some form, it seems like even their levels of consciousness are raising, and they're getting more intelligent, more interactive with us. We're able to, and I don't know if it's their levels increasing or all of our levels of consciousness increasing, but there's definitely something going on there. The communication that I'm able to have with them on an understandable level has grown tremendously just in the last year.
That's happening to all of us, Tom. That's everything's consciousness is raising. This is the mythology of the old. It's the mythology of the East India. It's the mythology of the Maya. It's the mythology of the Aborigine. These are the mythologies in ancient Egypt and in the Olmecs. These are the mythologies that at this particular time and junction, conscious elevates. Some of the early 20th century people believed that it was about ascension. And in the biblical senses of the ancient times, this is the time that you would ascend, and that evolved itself into what Christians call rapture. But the ascension of consciousness, time is not speeding up, but consciousness is speeding up. There's never enough time in a day. So I would have to say, Tom, when normally somebody would say that you're going crazy, I would have to agree. Animals are smarter, but we're smarter. We're beginning to harmonize and beginning to set an affinity and a harmony with the universe as this change and shift puts itself in place.
I had an experience and I want to get your take on it. Here in Japan we constantly have earthquakes, and maybe I don't know how many seconds before, the bottom of my spine was tingling, and it was like vibrating, and all of a sudden the earthquake hit, and when the earthquake hit, the energy shot up my spine, and I got this feeling of like evolution, that because of that energy release, it makes everything evolve. What would be your take on that?
I would say that's highly probable and very possible. When you look at an earthquake or a plate shift, or much of what the Fukushima earthquake was about, if you saw the pictures of the right after the earthquake above Fukushima, you could see a plasma. There's a photograph of a plasmic energy. So that means there was a tremendous release of energy. And in your sensitivity, Ramon, in your sensitivity and knowing that all the nervous systems runs through your spine, then you would feel that there is an energy before the magnetic release or the plate shift that occurs that can be detected, because people are trying to learn to predict earthquakes, but they know there's a depressed energy that occurs. It's like the earth takes a breath. It takes a deep breath before the earthquake releases. So it would be very natural because you're calm to be able to feel that energetic field. And think about this: in earthquakes and tsunamis, what happened in Japan and then what happened in Thailand. In Thailand, 200,000 people were killed in that tsunami. The only animals that died were those who were chained in cages. All the rest of them had left earlier that morning and went into the mountains.
Not only them, but also the indigenous population. They all there was a few tribes, I think 2 tribes, I forgot the name of the tribes, that went up to the mountains, and the only ones that didn't make it up there were someone in a wheelchair and I think 2 people who had like physical problems, but the rest of them all knew to leave.
Or they were too busy talking to white people. I'm going through that big deal because I was looking at history. I was looking at historically how so much damage was done to such indigenous, and like in the Amazon, how conquest came about and the destruction of habitats where people communed with the earth and where they had natural, like the American Indians, the Native Nations people, and how harmonious you lived, never taking more than you needed, always being thankful to Mother Earth and Father Sky. And then all of a sudden they have gold or they have something that somebody else wants to claim, and in the course of it, what happens. So please forgive me if I'm poking fun at white people, but I noticed that they have a really bad habit of doing those kinds of things. So I think that what we're looking at here is points of reference that everybody is having these kinds of sensations. And the prophets have foretold this. The great seers from multiple cultures have said it. And we're beginning to not be afraid to language it. Like nothing anybody has said tonight, anybody thinks is crazy. And to think of this like we were talking earlier, this guy named Ron, who had 2 parrots before he went into the Marine Corps. And he loved those parrots so much that he couldn't part with them. And he watched how they were growing in language. And after he got out of the service, he wanted to get them back. And he went and saw the interrelationship with those parrots and the family who adopted them. And he couldn't take them because they were all friends. And people don't realize that a parrot lives between 40 and 100 years. And he has 1,355 parrots that he's taken in. And they bring children over. And children who are autistic are having conversations with birds who've never spoken before. They're having kids and people who are troubled children are having conversation with birds. When you start to think about that, what a remarkable evolution in that simple thought that we've come to, and that we're not afraid to talk about it.
Exactly. So, Dannion, I know that, early in your, after your initial death, that you came back with some visions of future events. Is there anything that hasn't played out yet that you've seen that you feel is coming soon?
Well, the economic shift, which was always a big deal with me. Okay, this happened in America in 1895, 1929, and then again in 1933. The type of devastating economic psychology, but we emerged from it. So, in the next 2 years, I have no doubt we will see a the adoption of a worldwide plastic currency. That we won't deal with money anymore. We'll deal with plastic, so that and it's all about control and regulation. That hasn't happened. An earthquake that would literally split America. See, I had no idea about this, Tom. This is all nonsense to me. But that it would literally split America. And now I've been looking at the New Madrid Fault, studying the New Madrid Fault. And by looking at the New Madrid Fault, if that fault erupted like it did in 1812, it was a 9.8.
Wow.
9.8 in 1812, and it was so powerful it caused the Mississippi River to flow backwards. That means a complete shift. Instead of flowing into the Gulf, it flows north. And it really created like shaking a rug. And if you saw that again, it would easily kill 30 million people.
Yeah. Right now,
that hasn't happened.
Right now the whole Mississippi Valley, there's the drought that they're experiencing right now is the worst in recorded history there.
The hottest summer we've ever had. This is the hottest summer we've had.
Yeah, the Mississippi is so low, and I'm just wondering, are the conditions being set for a quake to happen there with the lack of moisture within the ground? I mean, because you upset the balance of Mother Nature. If you dry out a place, it's going to cause different things to happen in the tectonically. It just seems like that makes sense to me. What
you also do, Tom, is you move to the second tier. I mean, I saw these visions, and if you go on Dannion.com, you look at what's called "that ain't nothing," which is my southern phrase for that means it means something. If you look at "that ain't nothing," that's a southern term. If it's important, people say, "Well, that ain't nothing." And so, if you look about the chip technology, you'll see that so many of the things that I saw in 1975 during the near-death experience, I'm at about 91% accuracy. Some didn't happen exactly when I thought they would. It might have been a year or two difference. I think the biggest one that I missed was the collapse of Egypt's government. I thought it was going to happen in 1997. And what happened was, in 1997, they had the terrorists kill 50 German tourists, and the Sudanese rebels started crossing into Egypt from Libya. And I thought that would be when it was, but it didn't happen until last year.
Right.
Okay, but if you watch, what I started looking at was FEMA preparations. If you start looking at what FEMA is doing, then the Federal Emergency Management Act, Emergency Act, what FEMA was doing, they have ordered over 1 million caskets. They are doing training emergency exercises from the Delta to just outside of Chicago. The Mississippi turns into the Missouri.
Right.
Okay, and if you had a 9.6, you would look at what they would know, and you would start watching those kinds of things. And so they're happening. I'll tell you something else, too, now, and everything wasn't bad. We always deal with the bad stuff because we're always fear-based. So if you're not going to die and you're not going to go to hell, who cares? I mean, who cares? People say, well, Dannion, aren't you afraid of death? I said, absolutely not. Why? It never happens. They said, well, how do you think you're going to die? Vaporization. I'd like to sit on a nuclear weapon when it exploded so that I could vaporize. I thought that would be a rush. But when we start to look at this, there is about to become an advancement in medicine that will revolutionize how everybody thinks. Everybody. Why? We have proven without any question, and being able to discover this Higgs boson particle, what they are calling the God particle, it's the connector, the particle that holds together what appears to be mass. Well, with the discovery of that, that means literally there is no such thing as a solid object. The fact that a month ago they discovered this particle and could reproduce it in this collider proves no matter what you think, nothing around you is solid. Nothing. And people can think that the concrete wall, and say, well, you can say that, but you can prove that it's only concentrated energy. Well, what's going to happen, this is one of the things that got me the most, was the energetic healing capability. When a pharmaceutical company has to explain energetically how a pill works, as opposed to how it chemically works, because we have moved from chemistry, first it was physical, like Newtonian mechanics. We've moved from mechanical to chemical to energetic. And once you start looking at enzyme reactions in energetics, and you start looking at ductless glands, how does an enzyme inside of a gland that has no duct to release it outward, how does that enzyme release from that gland and move into your system? Energetically. It changes its frequency and migrates through the mitochondrial cell wall. But at that point, which is in the next 2 years, the pharmaceutical business will do everything it can to stop the migration toward energetic medicine, and we will start to see illnesses curable instead of manageable. No illness, we cure no illness. There's nothing we cure. All we do is create manageable symptoms of an illness, and we just manage the symptoms. And I think that is the cornerstone of the new world that we're moving into. I'm sorry there's going to be some earthquakes. And I'm sorry that there's going to be some serious issues, especially about drinking water. You think about this: 42% of the population of the world does not have clean drinking water. And this week, they announced the need for clean water consumption. For the first time in the history of the earth, the need has outstripped the amount that's here.
Wow.
There are more people, and the need for clean drinking water, the need has outstripped the supply for the first time. Then you start eugenics. You start people wanting to eliminate. You hear those stories of, they got to get rid of 2 billion people because there's too many people on the earth. And then you start looking to see if there's any science that matches that. And I think one of the big pushers of world population control is Bill Gates, the Bill Gates Foundation.
Right.
So I started looking at what he was doing. He wanted to vaccinate every child and record it. And now he just funded a grant studying fertilization at the University of North Carolina using ultrasound for human fertilization. Now, why would you want to use ultrasound to make a human being infertile?
Yeah.
If it wasn't not to do population reduction. So all these things are going to come. I think it's exciting, to be able to live at a time that the opportunity to see a connectiveness between us and all things. And with the Higgs boson particle and this accelerator, we're now beginning to explore dark matter. I mean, what a wonderful name for God, dark matter. But what they say is everything is suspended in this energy, and with the Higgs boson particle, we're able to detect it and begin to look at it. And when you used to hear the fables, Tom and Ramon, about where we're all one and we're all connected, you know, and everybody in the 60s when the Beatles had the Mahi Rishna, you know, and TM and transcendental meditation, that if we all hung together, the world would be at peace. And how crazy that all sounded. Guess what? Science today.
Exactly. Science is validating it. Yep. So all these things that everybody's been going with, oh, that's just woo-woo for all these ages and years and years and years, is finally coming around, and science is going, oh, wow, maybe these guys are right.
No, they still wouldn't say that. They'll try to make it.
Wait a minute. What they have to do is not read Scientific American. You know, people can talk that crap all they want, and I listen to it. I remember when the near-death experience was a phenomenon of oxygen brain deprivation.
Right.
Okay. Well, now everybody in the world's had a near-death experience, and whose fault is it? It's medicine's fault. They keep bringing us back. They've improved cardiopulmonary resuscitation techniques, cardiovascular reaction, and chemical construction that allows the body to resuscitate itself, and we're coming back. So now they're teaching it in nursing school because there's such a high ratio of people who are either in near-death experiences under some kind of reaction to an anesthesia, or people in severe trauma, or people in deep trances are having these kinds of experiences. So what now used to be a bunch of crackpots having this experience is now everybody who says it doesn't happen has become the crackpot. See, this is, for me, all this stuff is exciting. I don't know about you guys, but to live at a time to know that everything is energetic, and to realize that if you're doing an experiment, that the experiment is affected by you watching it, and the result that comes from that experiment is partially based on your expectations and your anticipation of the results of the experiment. That is an absolute, undeniable, replicable, scientific fact that has been proven over and over in university laboratories under defense contracts, and it cannot be denied.
The double slit experiment.
Yeah, that's when it gets cool.
Yep.
I'm always amazed by that. It always seems like science is playing catch-up because a lot of the things they're now realizing the ancients have been talking about for the longest. That kind of reminds me of, who was it? Was it Plato? Or I can't remember who was this, who talked about the atom. And, it took another, 2,000 years to realize that, yeah, he was on point.
Well, what it shows is that, what it really shows is this, that there was intelligence long before we evolved. And we are not the first civilization. We are remnants of these civilizations. And that civilization existed in, like, the Borg Saga, which is the Scandinavian of the beginning of time, and then we have the biblical saga, and then we have Atlantis and Lemuria. We have all these sagas, but now they're becoming to be identifiable because this knowledge and this history and this kind of information was passed down. And because the science by which it was explored or understood passed away or was destroyed, or hidden. It became mythologies and folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Now science has once again reached the zenith of where what was commonly known as mythologies among indigenous people has now become scientific fact. The fact that we are multidimensional beings, that the multiverse theory, which is the part of the string theory, is beginning to show more promise than anything other than the chaos theory as the basic core fundamental quantum mechanic, that we are living in multiple dimensions at the same time. And when I heard that the first time, I just laughed and I said, well, at least I know why I'm so tired when I wake up every morning. Well, I mean, listen, guys, if you don't die, you don't go to hell. And if anybody should die, it should be me. And if I guarantee you somebody deserves to go to hell, I'm your boy. Okay? I deserved it. And none of that has happened to me through being struck by lightning, open heart surgery, and brain surgery. I just have developed a severe a tolerance for pain. But other than that, life becomes exciting to me. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to talk to you guys because the people who are listening, and we're 3 of the 100 monkeys.
There we go.
People that have been opening up their hearts. I can handle the intellectual prowess of whatever anybody wants to talk about. But I hope that these conversations open up their hearts to their potential and their possibility to lose fear and embrace the dynamic joy of the privilege as a spiritual being to occupy physical, quote-unquote, space. Because all this is a big bag of water.
So what do you think about, I don't think I've ever heard you talk about this. What do you think about the hierarchical structure that mankind has put upon spiritual beings and religion? Do you think the avatars of our history, the Buddhas, the Muhammads, the Jesuses, the Krishnas, et cetera, do you think there was something different about them than what we are as spiritual beings, or do you think that they were just great teachers?
Well, I have 2 theories about that, Tom. I believe that there are those who are enlightened ones, and I believe that they're dimensional beings. Okay, dimensional. Because when I had the first near-death experience, in those first couple of months, I couldn't do anything because I was paralyzed. I would wander through these levels of consciousness, and I would be sitting, and then all of a sudden I'd be in this other dimension. And I would crawl to the chair. I mean, I was partially paralyzed for like almost 8 months, and it would maybe take me 2 hours to crawl to the chair, and I would get in this chair. It would take like 45 minutes to get in the chair, and I'd spend the day in that chair. And I would travel in these dimensions. So I have a theory that there are people who meditated, or people by some chemical reaction, or some course of choice that they made, that entered those dimensions and gained that insight. And became great teachers. Okay, and became those masters. Look at Pythagoras. When you look at Pythagoras invented Pythagorean geometry, which gave us the basic structure of pi, which gave us what is called the golden mean, which is the basic structure of every plant, every flower, every blossom that comes. But he's also the same guy that designed the music scale. Now, where in the hell can some guy sitting in Greece 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, come up with that? Okay?
There is a legend, though, about him that he, when he was really young, a young boy, his father and him had had found this other little boy who was like blue skin color, and I forgot where I heard this, but had learned a lot of those things from him. So.
Yeah, but I hear those. I look up all those things, because I'm obsessive compulsive. I can't stand not to know. And one thing about being dead is it makes you really curious. Things that you would never have any interest in whatsoever all of a sudden becomes an obsession. So, and as to avatars, I believe that there are enlightened beings, and I know from wandering through these dimensions that there are consciousness and worlds. I can't say worlds because we think of the earth, but there are dimensional consciousnesses that are functioning right along with us, just one vibration off. And we've passed into their level of consciousness, and they've passed into ours. And in the course of that interaction comes these enlightened ones, these beings. Now, when you look at the Bible in Genesis, and you look at the Anunnaki and the Nephilim and the Watchers, and you look at the old Hebrew text and the stories of the fallen angels, you really start getting interested in taking the religious conjecture out of it and looking at it as a historical story. And you find there to be a lot of truth to it without demonizing it. You see that there could have been extraterrestrial chariots of fire. You read all of these stories, the von Däniken perspective, and now the ancient alien perspective. You start looking at that, then you begin to see that there could have possibly been intelligence or intelligence that created this spark. I'm a big pyramid junkie, and I realize it's not that they built pyramids, and it's not that who built them, but why did they build them, and why are they sitting on grids? Why the ones that's in Egypt sit on a grid with one in Bosnia, that sits on a grid with one in China, that sits on a grid with those in Mesoamerica, that sits on a grid with those in Ohio or the mound builders.
Exactly.
Now, and then in India. Now, who in the world of a bunch of savages could have figured out how to build something between 4 and 20,000 years ago, and to build it in those precise ley lines of the energetic magnetic field of the earth? And why? Could it be because there are these times that come when the earth wobbles? Do you know we lost when the Fukushima earthquake came? We lost almost a full second of atomic time, and the plates moved a full
8 inches? What was it?
Yeah.
8 inches? Yeah.
Yeah. Japan's not even in the same place where it was before.
Yeah, and we lost a second in the atomic clock. And we're not supposed to think, and that plasma forming above it? Well, how in the heck did people not know that then? And then you begin to really get excited about, we're not the first ones. We're just catching up to someone who was here before. Well, what happened to them? Did the Earth shift on its axis? Okay, and like now they say, well, they did geological core digs in Antarctica, and they can prove that the Earth has shifted on its axis 71 times. That's as far back as they can go. Now, I think that's pretty exciting. Maybe it'll shift on its axis. Then I'll have to learn to be a mermaid. Have to go some flippers. Have to migrate.
So you started out the show with talking about the 26,000-year cycle that we are going through, and I kind of feel like the whole Yuga cycle, the way they describe it, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, Golden Age, Iron Age, etc. And I see that as our level of consciousness or our access to our true consciousness from this dimension. So as we're in the Iron Age, it's like we have like everything's cut off. We can't really access the knowledge of the universe. It's just not the physicality of this dimension is not conducive to bringing that information through. So we go into the Stone Age, the hunter-gatherer thing, because we just can't figure out how to plow a straight row. And then as time progresses and we near that center of the galactic plane again, the energy coming from the galactic center is us being those electromagnetic beings that we are. Our whole physiology is based on it. We're getting into higher energy coming straight off the ecliptic, so our consciousness is actually being able to access that even clearer and better and easier than when we're way off, 20 degrees off the ecliptic. That's the way, kind of the way I see it, anyways.
Yeah, but that's an astute observation, Tom. I don't go along with the bronze and the iron and the Stone Age because, but it's an astute observation because you're showing cycles. This is what all of these ancient teachings are about. That these are cycles.
Exactly.
And when you choose to come to this earth, and when you're chosen to come to this earth, because I believe and know without any question, you're chosen to come because of who you are, and you choose to come. And before you can enter this plane of existence, you have to be a great, powerful, and mighty. And those are words in the dictionary. Great, powerful, and mighty. You're always going to be a spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. You're always going to be that. Okay, a spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. But before you can come here, you would have achieved great, powerful, and mighty. Okay, and I know this. And then you are chosen. And then you have a series of choices that you make so that the nature of your service or what you're sent here by the divine to achieve and what you choose to achieve on your journey here has a place that it meets. We all think that what our divine mission is all that matters. And our divine mission may not be anything to do what we choose to do in our own growth cycle. And they're completely separate. So when you come here based on those two principles, which is I have no question, after 3 journeys, after the first time I became obsessive compulsive, and after the next 2 times I drive everybody over there crazy. I got to know. I drive everybody nuts. And so they say, oh, God, Dannion, he's back. He never let me stay too long, but just long enough for me to get enough to grip it. So that we chose to come in this particular cycle as guardians and to be able to observe utter wonderment. I watch how people like the Higgs boson particle and the collider and what we're watching and happen. We're all caught up in the polarization of the political aspects and of utter devastation. The system will change, everybody, and knowing that this change is coming, then you seek to adapt, and you don't go crazy, and you don't live in fear, because fear is the driver that herds us, corrals us, and turns us into sheeple. And that is not, and that's not who we are or who we're ever going to be. I'm never going to worry about when it's my time, because when it's my time, let the bell ring. I want to be in service. I want to be making a difference. I want to be expressing as much love and as much hope and as much aspirations in the people around me as I can find myself capable of doing. And the rest of it, I don't care.
So,
tell him I said to shut up. Pull the lever.
You want to explain your statement? You've used the statement, "Who you are is the difference love makes." What do you mean by that?
I have no problem. When you lift out of your body, and you're in that in-between state, between this world and the next one, you're watching yourself, and then you have most of the time it's a tunnel, but there is a boundary. There are meadows and lakes and streams and things that represent the transition from the mental, physical, into the ethereal, spiritual level of consciousness. And you will travel down the tunnel, and which most people I find is a tunnel, but I've seen and heard other things. It's just a point of division. And you come into a place of bright, brilliant, beautiful light. And it's an energetic light of colors so magnificent and so beautiful that you're in such awe you never realize that you're quote unquote dead. But because you're more alive than you've ever been. Ever. And you know this place where you are better than any place you have ever been. You feel it, you resonate with it. You become a part of it, and it becomes a part of you. You are met by a spiritual being. And people have called this being Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Allah, Krishna, Verdi, Kali. I mean, everybody has Kali. Everybody has a name. But I didn't know who that being was the first time. But by the second and third trip, I realized who it was. That being that comes to meet you is you. And it is your true self. Because this part about us, or the soul, or the ethereal consciousness that's in this bag of water, you are 76% water. Okay? You're just a big bag of water. Okay? And it has consciousness. But where in the brain is the mind at? Where's memory stored? Where is all of that? It's not there. So once you come to this place, you will have a panoramic life review. Once you meet this being, and everything's cool, and you meet all your relatives, and all your parakeets and birds and pets, everything comes to celebrate love. You have what's called the panoramic life review. And this happens. I've studied this more than any other part of the near-death experience, because it's the only thing from over there you bring back over here. And what happens is you see your entire life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. And you watch it from a second-person point of view as if you were your own best friend looking at the choices that you make. And you don't see wrong or right. You just see how close or how far you got from making the right choice. You're not critical. You're just looking at it. And then you literally become every person that you've ever encountered. And you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and everyone you've ever met. And you get to become them. And so when you realize that this is the game, this is what's going to happen. You're going to see your life pass before you, and you've missed nothing. You're going to watch it from a second-person point of view. Then you're going to become everybody you've ever encountered, and you're going to feel your reaction to them. The first thing you realize is you got to pay attention to your intention, not what you do, but why you do it first. And then second comes this system of judgment. And this is a Dannionism because I try to find language that gets people to understand. If the divine or if God could not come today, and God sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did God make? Okay? Then you realize none of this was ever about you. You didn't come here about something you were doing when it comes to judging. You came to grow, and when you see your choices that you made, the observational point is if your growth outweighed what your choice was, and if you grew from it, not being critical or judgmental or damnable, none of that stuff that you hear in religion or as close as we get to spirituality as a concept, that's all nonsense. But about how much the value of love, and I use the definition of love, not the English word. I prefer the Greek. English love has 900 meanings, but it could be love of and so many concepts of how we overuse it in English. But when you use the word love in the Greek, you have agape, which is the divine love. You have eros, which is what creates love between two people to procreate. And you have philia, which are friends. Developing friendships and relationships. And so you are the difference that love makes. And if you're going to be looking at that life that you just had, based on that the divine could not come today, and you came to represent the divine, then what difference did divinity make? And that's what I mean by that. I live my whole life based on that. I think twice before I react, because I've seen my life pass before me 3 times. I've gotten a little better, but it's not because I got spiritual or religious, it's because I got smarter. How many times do you think they're going to have to kill you before you get it?
I think that would be. I think I need to invent a machine that does that for people, gives them that instant life review, that panoramic life review. Just come on in, drop a quarter in the machine, and plug in, and we'll see where you're at.
I can tell you exactly how to do it. Go stand on the golf course doing a thunderstorm with a 20-foot metal rod.
That'd do it.
Guarantee it. Hey. This next book I'm writing, it's really only about the panoramic life review. But I've said this for 35 years, but people never get it because they sidestep the fact that they are part of the divine and that they religiously place it as a part of that we are the child of God and blah, 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 blah. But they never face up to the ownership of it as a value because they were taught that they were sinners, or they thought they were in a caste system and they could never elevate themselves from that caste system. You were from the Brahmin caste system in the Hindus, an untouchable in India. Japan has developmental caste systems. They develop these whole ways to compartmentalize who you are. All that stuff's just nonsense. And now we've developed this thing called sin, which means that we are part of God, but because we were born in sin, we have to keep trying to get God's approval to realize that we're deserving to be who we already are. That's all crazy to a dead person.
So, guilty before proven innocent? Oh, I'm sorry, guilty until proven innocent.
No, guilty. No, not till proven innocent. Guilty. Because some people in the desert, think of this. You go back, and I'm like 14 years old, right? And I didn't give a crap. It didn't matter to me. If I was a sinner and I had to, I was a tough guy growing up, meaner than hell. And I was tough. And I had to go to the RAs, the Royal Ambassadors, Fundamentalist Baptist Weekend for Wayward Boys. I think it's because I knocked the science teacher out. Well, he just caught me at the wrong time. I don't know about you. I don't know about you when you were 14.
That's why they killed you, Dannion.
Yeah, well, when I was 14, I didn't have but one thing on my mind, and it wasn't about learning. It was about biology, but it wasn't about dissecting a frog. Okay. So I was talking to the girl in the seat in front of me, and he walked up behind me and grabbed me by my right he didn't realize I was left-handed, and I cocked him. And he hit the wall, and hit his head on the wall, and slid down the wall. He was out probably 20 seconds, but that's like 4 years when you're 14. So I had to go to the weekend of learning that the world was only 6,000 years old. And that what was really wrong with me was that some woman was in a garden somewhere, and she was talking to a snake. And the first thing I thought about is, number one, how many women are going to hang around when they see a snake? And number two, how many are going to hang around when the snake starts to talk to them?
Exactly.
Okay? And what the snake is telling the woman to do is to get her boyfriend to eat an apple so he would realize he was naked. Think about it. So I figured that the forbidden fruit had to be a watermelon, because Viagra is made from pickled watermelon rind. So here I am at 14. I'm listening to this stuff. And what had happened was I had gone to the Charleston Historical Museum, and they had a display that was traveling around from the Smithsonian, and they had a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton and a couple of turtle shells. And this Tyrannosaurus Rex went extinct in the Neo-Paleolithic period 162 million years ago. And these turtles went extinct 369 million years ago. So I'm supposed to listen to these fools tell me that the world was only 6,000 years old when I got a dinosaur down the street and some turtle shells. Well, now I know you can do a DNA study of that turtle and know what it ate the day it died 369 million years ago. But then I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you something. Where did dinosaurs come from if we were only 6,000 years old? You know what the guy told me? He said dinosaurs were the works of the devil. And they were placed in the ground so that we would be deceived into believing that the world wasn't 6,000 years old. Well, I figured out who the devil was.
That makes a lot of sense.
I figured out who the devil was. It was Steven Spielberg, because he did Jurassic Park. So I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you something. What did the dinosaurs eat on Noah's Ark? And I figured it was unicorns.
Why is that?
Because there's no unicorns. So, I look at that stuff and I just laughed. And I didn't no more give a hang, guys, about all that religious stuff until I was dead. I didn't give a crap about it because I thought they were all crazy. Because if the reason I was trying to talk to that girl to where I was a sinner, because I thought I had to come over because I knocked out the science teacher, okay? And when you started laying all that other stuff on me, you lost me. Because if I was guilty of something somebody was doing in the desert 6,000 years ago, I didn't see no video. I didn't see the pictures unless it was in National Geographic. And I certainly didn't have an orgasm. And if you think I'm guilty of what they were doing and I was born in sin, I think you a fool. I'm just an ordinary guy who's been dead 2 or 3,000, and people have to wake up.
I agree, and I think it's happening. I think it is happening, Dannion.
I agree.
Thanks to people like you and so many
other.
Yeah.
You're 2 worlds apart. Look where Ramon is. Ramon's in Japan. And look at what's happening in Japan. When you want to see a cycle, Ramon, and you want to sense a cycle, where the first atomic bomb was ever dropped, where the first weapon of mass destruction against human beings was dropped, it's the same place where Fukushima is. That's a full circle and a full cycle.
Yep.
And that's a moment of revelation for all of us. The moment of revelation.
It definitely is.
And to see a cycle has been completed, and the fact that so much of the power that drives the thriving brilliance of the Japanese economy, now the third most powerful, but once the second most powerful economy, was nuclear power, 14 reactors. And those were I think those were MOX reactors, as opposed to Babcock-Wilcox. I think most of those are MOX reactors. So, I mean, they're more radioactive, but that's the time for all of us to stop and pay attention to what's a nuclear reactor do. It heats water. It only creates steam. That's all a nuclear reactor does.
Which I find so ridiculous that you're going to spend several $1 billion to heat water up.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And Japan's sitting on so many natural hot springs, they should be tapping into that geothermal there. So, I mean, it would not be
Tom, wait a minute. Take a breath. Think of this.
I know. It makes much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, think of this. We can create a drug. We can create a drug that can block the flow of energy to another part of the body that creates a separate chemical reaction that can slow down a symptom of diabetes, of cancers. And we cannot separate hydrogen from oxygen.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who tries to tell me that is a problem, that's a fool too. When you look at a chemical and you look at a pharmaceutical company, the only reason we're not separating H2O, hydrogen, 2 parts hydrogen from 1 part oxygen, which is water, is because it is cost effective, and we won't be able to delude the world into dealing with fossil fuels, which controls what we call fossil fuels, which controls the driving economy to produce electricity.
Yep.
It's all about electricity.
Yep.
What produces electricity, they said, well, you got to be able to power the engine of a car. Well, if you're not producing electricity, you can power all the engines you want, and you will accomplish absolutely nothing. So the fact that we're not separating hydrogen from water, and to realize that we can find the Higgs boson particle in a reactor, in a bombarded reactor, that we spent $17 billion to build looking for that particle. And for you to try to tell me that that knowledge is not in our hands, and the developmental stories of Tesla, the stuff that Tesla was doing, free energy, which Westinghouse agreed and J.P. Morgan cut it off, created alternating current as opposed to direct current so you could flow it over thousands of miles. And he created the free energy by using the Tesla coil, and they shut him down and declared him insane. And that's where you think Tesla is. But he holds 1,100 patents on electricity.
Yeah.
And can you see any of those patents? And we say that an Italian named Marconi invented the radio because why? He took 9 Tesla patents and combined them and created the radio.
Yep.
And so some guy in Indiana got pissed about it and started doing the research. Today, if you would say, well, who invented the radio? It isn't Marconi. It's Nikola Tesla.
Yep.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, so it's just separating hydrogen from oxygen.
Yeah.
And I've seen experiments that are doing that. I've seen people do it. I watched a guy run a 5-horsepower Honda generator. I watched him run it off of a glass of water.
I saw a guy right here locally. Oh, this was 20 years ago. I was a carpenter for quite a while, and I built a dyno room for a guy that was building a H2O engine, and I watched him run a V8 on water.
Yeah, it's called a pool carburetor.
Yeah, it's I was just absolutely floored back then, but he told me that this stuff has been around for a long time.
Yeah,
This guy told me all sorts of stories about the guys in the black suits knocking on his door and poking him in the ribs with 45s and stuff, and yeah, he moved.
Okay, well, think of this. They can't do it anymore. They have to collapse the economy. They have to create. Listen to how crazy this is. The ruling leader of the Lebanese of the Libyan Liberation Army that liberated Libya from Muammar Gaddafi. Okay, in his office, if you see a picture of his office, he has an Al Qaeda flag behind his desk. And now, the army that's liberating Syria, they have proved without any question that they are Al Qaeda fighters from Yemen, from Libya, are all in Syria now as the tactical support, being tactically supported by NATO and the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go back to realize that Al Qaeda in Arabic means the base. It was invented by the CIA when the Russians were in Afghanistan to recruit fighters for the Mujahideen. And we're still using the same people. And if you look at it today, you don't ever hear it in the news. We are supporting and supplying Al Qaeda fighters in Syria today.
Yep.
We supported and supplied Al Qaeda fighters in Libya to overthrow Gaddafi.
But CNN says that that's not true.
Well, that's why only 35 people watch CNN. Okay, now they got what? The lowest ratings in history. But Bill O'Reilly says the same thing. I mean, 6 companies control all the media in the world.
That was my point.
I watched the Russian Times. I mean, I watched Russian Times news.
RT today? Yeah, RT.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Best news, other than the Chinese English. And I know, Ramon, what you're watching. You're watching a complete migratory pullback in the Asian world away from the Western world. The Asian world is beginning to create the Asian Pacific grouping. I mean, and they are sick and tired of what the Western world is doing. And the Bank of International Settlements and the LIBOR, the whole fact that LIBOR is going to bring down the system, and they hope they can create enough terrorist fear that we don't pay attention to the fact that the Western banking system has been completely manipulated. Do you realize that there was never a rebellion in Open Street Rebellion when the LIBOR information came out about them misquoting how much they were charging banks loaning each other money? When it affects your credit card, it affects your home loan, it affects all of that stuff. And they're not in jail. And to realize that that if Barclays paid $435 million, that would mean that Morgan Chase would owe $22 billion. Now, where are they going to get $22 billion to pay the fines of screwing everybody who ever went into their bank.
Yeah, they'll just print it out and send us the bill.
Well,
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead, Ramon.
No, I was gonna say I find it amazing that not amazing, actually disgusting. Like, for example, recently, I mean, it doesn't shock me. It just proves that what we're saying is not BS. But the whole thing with the vice president of Monsanto being appointed, what was it, the head of the FDA, was it, Tom?
Oh, yeah. Well, come on, give me a break.
Like, really? I mean, how more in your face and obvious are they trying to be?
But you see, they don't care anymore. Well, this is it. They print it now. They print it. And they don't really realize that, just like us talking about it, it's like we're disgusted, but there's only a certain point. There's only a certain point, okay, where people will stand up. You know, somebody asked me this again, with all this going on and all this posse comitatus, and that they're now returning Marines from Afghanistan and Iraq. They're taking them because they learned how to police communities. As opposed to be soldiers, they learned how to police communities because they know. This is a guy that's a colonel in the Marine Corps saying he said they're going to police communities because they know when the banking system collapses that there'll be civil war, civil disobedience. I said, They said, well, what do you think you're going to do? I said, hell, I'm going to move to Texas. I said, they'll never take Texas. And if you need something, just go into Mexico and get it. If you need some rum or something, or some medicine, just go over and just cross the border and get it in Mexico. I said, listen, they don't realize, everything's about gun control and all of that kind of stuff. People kill people. And they don't really realize they are losing. You can't take a person's home from them. And you can't do what you've done and think that you're going to scare people, and knowing that, like what our present administration, 1 out of every 6 Americans own the dole. Okay? And you can't do that. You can't. And not think that people are going to rise up spiritually.
Yeah.
Not rise up in war and guns. You think if you got the guns, you're going to stop people? Well, you can forget that. We are spiritual beings, destined to be free. We choose to come to this world, and we're chosen to come to this world because the divine believes that no one greater than you could accomplish something that helps spread love, understanding, harmony, and equilibrium in the area where you live, in your own neighborhood, and hold that place, and that you choose to come, because maybe you're just like a good fight. I know that's why I'm here.
Yep, I agree with you 100%.
What are you going to do? Kill me? Well, big deal.
Yep, exactly. I was looking for a life when I found this one.
Exactly. See, and what I'm so glad, because I know we're moving to the end of this segment. What makes me so proud, guys? What makes me so really proud is we're not afraid to talk about it. We're not afraid to mix spirituality and divinity and evolution and consciousness and reality. The head of Monsanto. Give me a break. You can genetically engineer an illness that won't show itself up for 20 years. And you can put it in a cereal, in a genetically modified cereal, that you can only spray Roundup on, that will react in your mitochondrial tissue in a cell 20 years from now. Look at computer viruses. People say, well, I don't understand how that can happen. Well, when you turn your computer on and you see a pop-up, that pop-up stays.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you cleanse that cycle, it's embedded. Well, it's the same way. I mean, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night.
Right.
And, yeah. And so you can't fool us. But you know what? I know this from the visions. We win. And it won't be armed conflict, because Americans won't fight Americans. We did it once.
Right.
And there was Kent State. And the power of control, which is what we're indoctrinating. I saw an FBI, a guy videotaped an FBI instruction. And the FBI was instructing a police force. And in this guy videotaped it. And in this, the FBI agent said, can anybody give me an example of a true terrorist? And they were talking about Osama bin Laden. But if you look on the FBI most wanted list, Osama bin Laden is not charged with the New York Towers. There is no charge against him. They got him for the 93 and then the coal ship, but he is not charged with 9/11 because they don't have insufficient evidence that he did it, so it's not a crime. But they said this FBI agent used the first American terrorists were the founding fathers, for they rebelled against England.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I hear that, okay, hello, Americans won't do it. You'll never get a Marine to go up against another Marine. It won't happen.
Nope.
And they don't realize that. Marines won't go up against Marines, and Marines won't shoot Marines. It won't happen. Like now, people, I mean, because I was in the Marine Corps, and I understand, because I work in hospice. You all know I'm a hospice volunteer. And I understand that camaraderie among veterans. I understand it. And that's what they're going to run up against. And you realize that these kids coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, they are socially adept. And they are wise.
Yeah.
And they're educated. And they're going to hook up with the Vietnam era and the Desert Storm group. And then all of a sudden, you have a force of resistance. Do you realize that the federal government, that the Homeland Security believes, if you have done 2 tours, at least 2 tours, that you're considered a domestic threat?
Yep.
That's Homeland Security.
Wow.
I think that's as funny as it gets. And they think they're going to get people to believe it and buy it. And they're reservists. 46% of the entire military were reservists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the guy that works at the grocery store and a fireman, a couple football players. And that's going to be a domestic terrorist? People are not going to buy it, guys. They're not going to buy it. And they keep thinking it because if you're so scared about paying for your house, well, then get a smaller one.
Yep.
No, don't ever let material power rule. Never. Let spiritual power rule. Let what your heart tells you be it. And whatever the punishment is or whatever the repercussion is, take it. Take it.
Exactly.
Love conquers. Hope inspires. I mean, and that's how I see it. And I'm an old Marine, but I know better. And I've seen a place more powerful than this one will ever be. And I've seen a place so filled with love and light that any threat that you bring at me, first I'll have to stop laughing before I'm going to deal with it. Because whatever's happened, as long as I'm focused on what I do and from my heart, the rest of it is just an event.
Exactly.
And did I get a chance to tell you guys how much I love you today?
No, you didn't tell me.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I want to say that I love you and I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart.
Well,
And I'll tell you something else. That you two come together. How did the two of you meet?
well, actually, we met at a spirituality conference, spirituality/UFO conference is how we first met.
Which one where?
It was at ECETI in 2010. It's in Eastern Washington. James Gilliland's ranch.
Oh, I know James.
Yeah.
So-
That's where we met initially. Yeah.
Yeah, and even like oh, go ahead. No, I was gonna say even the first day we met, we like hit it off.
Yeah, we knew each other.
Yeah, but see, that's great. I know James. I know everybody. I mean, I've been in the Swami business like since the beginning of time. I know James, good people. That's just so cool that people come together, and I'm really glad that you have me on this show. I mean, I appreciate it.
Well, we love you. We love you ourselves, or at least I love you. It's just I love what you're doing. I love your energy. You're good people. So, what have you got coming up? What are you doing? I know you're working on the book, and
okay, I have the book, and now I have the big thing is the boat cruise. I mean, anybody can go to Dannion, just DANNION, and see. I'm not going to be out on December 21st because I believe that that's the time that somebody could do something stupid. I'm not going to put myself or the family or anything or any of my friends in that kind of danger because people do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm taking a boat cruise in the Caribbean on October the 6th. I'm almost sold out my part. So if anyone goes and looks at where I'm going, I am a pre-classic Maya. I mean, you have pre-classic, classic, and post-classic. I don't think much of the classic and post-classic periods. I just don't think much of them. I like the pre-classic period, and in Belize, they have discovered a new site. They have an old site, but they've discovered a new site. And that's my destination, to go to mess around in the Caribbean, teach a course on the boat. It's inexpensive, and they pay for everything. It's all free, and then I don't have to walk very far, and I can walk around on that boat and enjoy myself, and I can listen to Sean David and the group of us and Susan Chomsky and Carl Kalman, the people who are going to be on there with me, and then stop in Rattan and eat fish, and then go to Belize and spend a day and being able to come back to the boat so I don't have to have hotels and all that kind of crap, and to be able to, all that kind of stuff, and to be able to go to a pre-classic Mayan site that very few people have been to. So the energy of the structure is still there. The nature of the pre-classic period when it was Olmec influenced as opposed to the classic, which became city-states, like Greek became a bunch of city-states, and then the post-classic period where Chichen Itza and Tulum is in Cancun, those places. We don't stop and look at that. That is not of overwhelming interest to me because that was already overrun by the Toltec and the Aztec by that particular period. Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan, those places in Tulum. They're beautiful sites to connect. And since it's a Mayan 2012 period, I figured it was the best time for people to come. So I'm inviting anybody that's listening. And, Ramon, I have probably 12 people from Japan that are coming.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. I have 12 people from Japan. I had On the last one, I had, I think, 16 people from Japan.
That sounds like an awful lot of fun.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but you know what? People don't get it. The Japanese culture, I mean, they get a lot of Marshall Plan in them and a lot of MacArthur in them, but from the way it was developed after the war. But when you can go to a bustling city and still see a temple, Shinto's temple, as beautiful as it was in the 1400s, give me a break. That's a deeply spiritual people.
Yes.
And I like to tell you this. My heart goes out to everybody in the Fukushima place. I put it out in my prayer list. You know, I put it out in my list, and I have Maseo, which is a really good friend of mine. She's there, and I put out all the love and all the support. And you know, I supported the animal rescue. It didn't turn into much. I support the animal rescue, but I will have Japanese people coming. I mean, we have fun, and I'm a lot of fun, and I know an awful lot about the Maya. I mean, I know an awful lot about the Maya and about Mesoamerica. You know, after 93 countries, I think I have a pretty good range.
Nice. That obsessive compulsive disorder popped out when you got into that, didn't it?
And it can't help it.
Yeah, I know. So I do the same.
I'm doing a Showtime special, a documentary for Showtime on palliative and end-of-life care, and I'm working on a script that I'm pretty sure that Searchlight will pick up. The script is about, it's kind of like 24, the thing that had Kiefer Sutherland. It's kind of like that. It's kind of action-packed. It's just a culmination of a lot of things, both from my past and from past, so I can add mythology and Black Ops and those kinds of things with a little spirituality as a subtle undercurrent.
Nice.
Every place that I can get that little spirituality, I'm going to.
Yeah.
And if it takes shooting somebody to get it, you know, like games, if it takes shooting or a little blow up a few things to get people's attention, that's what I'm going to do.
Right. There you go. There you go. Well, Dannion, I think we'll go ahead and let you go here. God, we love you so much, and you keep doing what you're doing because... And
have me back in a couple of months.
Oh, we will.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. We love having you here.
But next time we want you for 3 hours.
Okay, we'll make it 2.
Okay.
But I sincerely enjoy being with you, and I like the conversation and the dialogue, and I'm just Dannion.com. You know, you can go to any search engine in the world and just type in my first name, and you'll find me, and then there's the Twilight Brigade. But good luck in this show, and may we have 6.8 billion monkeys as opposed to just 2.
There we go.
Just 100 monkeys. Let's have 6.8 billion, and may your show grow, and may everyone who is listening this night and this morning know that they're loved and appreciated, and that they are divine spiritual beings on a divine spiritual mission, and just being yourself is how you achieve the goal.
Amen.
Very well said.
All right.
All right, my brothers. I love you. Be blessed. And thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Dannion. And I want to thank everybody for listening tonight or this morning or this afternoon. And as you know, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we love you guys.
Yes, I. This song is called Be the Change. Inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace,
aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King,
aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scarred, trying to settle the score and maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting the seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda killing my creed. Or what don't kill me make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fighting for interest before it's attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante, while the anti-proletariats hold the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving, and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace,
aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King,
aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light,
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the tree, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change